Hey guys, welcome back to a video. Welcome back to another video. I know it's been a couple weeks since I made my schedule reaction, but some big breaking news that came about maybe an hour ago, which is that Myles Garrett has been traded from the Browns to the Rams. I wanted to look at some of the other details on this trade, but it's a pretty crazy trade um to hear. Like, there was some speculation earlier in the offseason that the Browns might trade Myles Garrett because they redid his contract to make it easier for teams to trade for him, but they didn't seem like they were going to, like last year when they were dependent on just keeping him on the team. But the team decides to trading him, and the Rams are at it again. As it says, they traded for Trent McDuffie earlier. They're giving up their 2027 first, which is supposed to be a loaded class. So Cleveland now has two firsts in that class to more than likely get their quarterback and then possibly another helpful target, just like they did this past draft, getting both Spencer Fano and Casey Concepcion. So I like it for Cleveland. They also get Jared Verse, which was is a budding star for LA. He goes to Cleveland, where it's still a really good defense. New DC, no more Jim Schwartz, but versus younger on this current Browns team's timeline, and Myles Garrett is a Ram. It's crazy to say because I feel like after last year, all the trade speculation and him wanting to leave, and then when the team signed him to that extension. He reported he was there for the entire year. People were like, the Browns are more than likely not going to move on from him. But apparently, it's June 1st, which usually we see a lot more um stuff go on post June 1st after the draft because now um teams are more flexible with cap space and it's easier to make moves post June 1st after the draft has happened. So we'll see a lot more moves. I mean, the Giants brought back OBJ, which was speculated, and then both brought in Juju, who obviously was with Matt Nagy for a couple years in the Chiefs, and then Braxton Berrios. Still rumors on AJ Brown. It'll more than likely be sooner rather than later. It seems like it will be the Pats, but I wouldn't be surprised if another team maybe swooped in, like the Jags or another AFC team that possibly could give the Eagles better draft capital than what the Patriots are giving. But it's crazy that Myles Garrett is now a Ram. Just because I didn't think the team was going to trade him. Like, it felt like he was going to be a Brown for the duration of his career. It felt like there was no real other way he would be moved on from, especially after last year. But it's clear Andrew Berry, was talking to teams, and I guess Myles Garrett and the team are okay with parting ways. Cleveland obviously gets that extra first to possibly use to trade up if they aren't in QB range, and they get a young star in Jared Verse who should help this team out. And I think this does show that the Rams are more than likely going to pay Byron Young whenever he wants. Um, because it was always a question mark after they got both Byron Young and Kobe Turner in 2023, and then Jerry Verse and Brandon Fisk, all defensive linemen. But who are they going to pay? I think trading for Myles Garrett, moving on from Jared Verse, who's a tremendous player, but I don't think the Rams maybe were going to pay him what he wants with all the other players they have on this team. And I think this could make the Rams the best defense in the league because their defense is already really good under Chris Shula, who's coming back. It was a big surprise when they got a head coach, but then They shore up the corner position with McDuffie and Jalen Watson back in March. Now they get Myles Garrett to come off the edge to give them a game wrecker. I think the Rams, at least in my opinion, are the top team heading into this year because they've um they've what's the word? I'm trying to think. Like they've cleared off their issues on the defensive side that kind of hurt them. The offense will still be great. Um so like they've been able to make that defense even better, clearing up some of the holes they kind of had after last year. The offense will still be really good, and the Rams are my title favorite right now. Like, I don't see any way where they aren't in the Super Bowl because this team is loaded from top to bottom. I mean, they have so many Hall of Famers or players on track to be Hall of Famers if they continue. And it's crazy that this team is this loaded. Because I feel like in the NFL, unlike basketball or baseball, I feel like you rarely see so many elite players on one team because it's hard cap wise to be able to fit in all those players. So I feel like you usually see maybe a couple, maybe three guys who are like stars of one team, but I feel like you don't see so many great players on one team like the Rams have constructed. And this clearly shows that this is an all-in push, that this is more than likely Stafford's last year. Because I feel like, yeah, because I feel like with them bringing in all these defensive additions, making sure this team is loaded from top to bottom, I think it does show that they are pushing to win a Super Bowl in this year because Stafford is more than likely retiring. And while Ty Simpson can definitely be the guy, it is unknown whether the team will still be as great once Simpson becomes a starter, more than likely in 2027. So I do think this shows that the Rams clearly are trying to invest into this team right now, bringing in win now players and not really caring about the consequences. I just think it's crazy that um I just think it's crazy Myles Garrett isn't around because he's been around his entire career. Like his first season, the team went winless, and people were like, this is a dumpster fire organization. That he finally has some competent coaching and other players around him, and the team makes a run. And then they've been kind of one of the worst organizations recently with their horrible moves the last couple of years. So I felt like Myles Garrett was, you know, he was okay being in Cleveland because he wanted to be a one team guy, but it's clear that the Rams were really trying to bring in Myles Garrett, really were trying to bring in another defensive anchor to this team. Because the offense is loaded, is really loaded. So I think they wanted to bring in another defensive impact player, which is Myles Garrett, the best. You could say the best player in football, regardless of position, because of how great he is. Um, but I think this is crazy that the Browns traded him to the Rams, and the Rams once again going all in for a Super Bowl one. We saw it, plenty of years ago when they brought in Stafford, Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, even signed OBJ during the season. Like they were kind of going all in with all these veteran guys to win a Super Bowl. They're clearly trying to do it again, and I think are clearly the favorites um, in the NFL. So if I had to give a grade for each team, I'd give the Rams an A, just because they are giving up a pretty substantial first round pick, even though it's probably going to be in like the late 20s or 30s more than likely. It's still a really good class. So, and then there's apparently additional compensation to Cleveland that who knows what that'll be. And then Garrett is older than Jared Verse, but he is under contract more than versus, and his win now. And then for Cleveland, I give this an A plus. I mean, Jared Verse isn't as good as Myles Garrett, but could become as great as he is. So I do think for this Browns timeline, it makes sense. You get that first, which now gives you two for next year. So whether you have to trade it for a quarterback or whether you can select a quarterback and then get another piece in a loaded class, and then the additional compensation could be like extra picks, maybe a player. So I like it for both teams. The Rams get a win now player to really maybe finalize this team to win the Super Bowl, and the Browns get some compensation for a all-time great Hall of Famer one day. Um, and they look towards the future where hopefully they have a young quarterback, an exciting offense, and we'll be back to being a competitive team for the future. But that'll do it for today's video. Hope you guys like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And I will catch you guys in the next video. But until then, hope you have a great day, and bye.